Hello and welcome to Manhattan Beach Studios. This is Mark Nicholas. I am the owner of Manhattan Beach Studios. Now, we are in the business of producing video for others, and in most cases that means coming into our soundstage and we do the video. But we're also really good at recording people that are not in the studio with us. We can bring in guests and call-ins and remotes. And these days, we're doing a lot of this kind of work, particularly because this is COVID-19. And now I know that soon we won't have COVID-19 around anymore. But this video applies anytime we are not in the same room as the person we're working with. Now, we have seen people use Zoom and Skype and everything else. You can use our system. The great thing about our system is we can add graphics and overlays and custom animations and all kinds of stuff. We can even do that stuff live, running slides, and it's really, really cool. But regardless of which system you're using, whether you're using ours or any other system, there are a number of things to be aware of. Anyway, this is Manhattan Beach Studios, and we're going to kick things off. And we're back. So we have about 10 things you need to be paying attention to whenever you're going to do any video content, whether it's in a studio or outside a studio. Again, if you're with us, we can help pay attention to a lot of this stuff. But if you're not with us, it really is up to you. These are a few of the things you should do anytime you're going to be on video. Hey, we got a little graphic, how to prepare for your remote. So step number 1, prepare. Quite simple. Know what you're going to say. You don't want to trip over your words if you could at all avoid it. And not all of us are that good at it, so it does take a little extra preparation. Typically, you want to know why you were on video so that you can get right to the point and focus exactly on what the message is. Secondly, background selection. One of the things you want to pay attention to is how cluttered your background is and whether or not you can see your outline versus the background. In other words, if you're wearing a white shirt and you fade into a white background, you kind of vanish. You want to look sometimes academic, or you want to look professional. You want to look whatever you want to look, but you try to avoid clutter and try to avoid distraction. All very important. One other consideration is pay attention to the light. The eye is typically drawn to the brightest object. Not always the case, but mostly the case. And so if behind you is extremely bright, not only may your cameras and your lights have a tough time lighting you correctly, but you may also find that the eye is drawn not to you, but away from you. Foreground selection. Now this also focuses on who you are and what your brand is, but it's now your set. Are you going to sit in a chair? Are you going to sit at a desk? Are you going to stand up? What are you going to do in order to present yourself? So just pay attention to that. It's not the kind of thing you just want to do haphazardly. So you want to focus on this. Now, as part of this, you want to talk about lighting. You should be evenly lit and you should be bright. Okay? When you're bright, the brighter you are, the easier it is for the camera. And in many cases, the less it will bring in that light, lessen the exposure, darkening the background, making everything really beautiful. Okay? That's all very important. Light from the front. Okay? If you're backlit, you're going to go silhouette. If you're side lit, you'll become mysterious and in shadow. All right? Just a few thoughts to consider. A good camera. Now, one of the things about the good camera is it is not always your webcam. Now, companies like Logitech make amazing cameras that simply plug into your USB drive, your USB plug in your computer, and they can do some fantastic things. Now, here we use higher end cameras. Now, there are a lot of reasons why we might want to use a higher end camera. One, flexibility, potentially changing the zoom or the angle during mid-shot. They also handle light better. And when it handles light better, it means not only do you get better contrast and contour, but you get less noise and it looks far more professional. Regardless, even just 30 or 40 bucks can go out and get an HD, beautiful webcam that plugs into your USB drive, and it sure will get you started. Some of them even have a 1/4 screw on the bottom, and you could simply screw them onto a little light stand and back the camera up so it's nice and eye level. When we're talking about cameras, though, we're also talking about angle. People who typically use a webcam tend to have the computer slightly beneath them and the camera facing up. That's not a great angle. Just like the angle of top down is not a great angle. The best thing you can do is have the camera somewhere near eye level. People disagree, some lower it a little bit, but regardless, it is directly even or almost even with the eyes. The nice thing about some of those Logitech cameras, and again, some others that have that 1/4 plug at the bottom, so you could screw them onto a separate stand and you could position the camera exactly where it should be. Now let's talk microphones. One of the reasons why I use this microphone is this very reason. Hello, 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 hello. And let me back up, and let me come forward again. The great thing about this microphone is I don't need to be in a silent room. If I'm not on this microphone, I vanish. Now, while that requires that I'm close to the microphone, what it also means is that someone can be sitting right next to me and they won't be coming through this microphone as much. Or someone in this house or in my studio can walk and I don't hear the footsteps or, God forbid, the dishwasher or the washing machine pop on. Because now that we're quarantined, I do have a washing machine not too far away from me. Okay, so a good microphone that picks up sound clearly is critical. One of the things that's funny about sound is if you're going to give your audience a headache, it's probably going to be because the sound is not good. Obviously, shaky video, we don't want that. But bad sound is very, very difficult to listen to. Okay? Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the quiet environment. Ironically, any noise will pull your viewer, your listener away. It is not only distracting to you, but it's distracting to them. So before you go live, you want to make sure that that is a nice and quiet environment. A nice outfit. A couple of rules that we like to offer. Number 1, solid colors. Number 2, no plaids or stripes. Now, plaids or stripes is not really a fashion call as it is as much as how cameras actually interpret those stripes. It can create an effect that causes these sort of zigzaggy lines, and you've seen it before. We try to avoid that. In addition, there is a fashion component, which is we do like to make sure that the outfit does not draw the viewer's attention. Now, that's not life or death. Some people are into different types of fashions, but when we just tend to talk to professionals, we tend to suggest solid colors, okay? And we tend to stay away from stripes. Now, a pair of headphones. Let's talk about why we have headphones. Okay, number 1, you want to hear what's going on, right? But if you hear that through your speakers, you're going to have a problem. And let me illustrate why. Corner so you can see. But here is basically a nice little white screen. And if I can make this white screen work. And we have a microphone. Okay. Now this microphone travels into a computer. And then the computer goes directly into the internet. Okay? Now the internet sends that signal along to me at Manhattan Beach Studios, where I then send that signal back to the internet to either go to a live stream or back to you, always back to you, and possibly both. Okay? So this transition here, this circle that we're dealing with, can take anywhere from 10 milliseconds up to, let's just call it, let's call it a second. Okay? So when it comes back to you, it's going through the computer and out your speakers, where it is then going back through your microphone. Now, as soon as this happens, it goes back through the microphone and starts all over again. So now you have 2 signals going through your microphone at one time. One, you to anything coming through your speakers. Okay? Now, this is a big deal, and it's a big problem, and it creates something that is akin to echo. You've heard it before, and nobody wants to hear echo. Now, it's not just bad for the listener, but it's terrible for you. It is impossible for you to do your job if you hear yourself twice. Now, we tend to solve that problem with something called a mix minus. That means that through your headphones, we're not giving you your own voice. We've already acknowledged the fact that that would be bothersome to you, and we don't want you to hear yourself. But you can hear yourself if it goes out onto the internet, of course. That would come back through you, and we don't want that either. But the rest of the problem is that all the audio from the internet is coming back through that live switch back to your speakers, and then that audio is now joining your voice and coming back through. There's nothing we can do if you're not wearing headphones. So go out, find yourself a stylish pair of headphones and a microphone, and that's how we're going to get our best sound. Adequate setup time. Now, what this means is that if you're doing a live stream or a live remote recording, the last thing you want to do is turn your computer on and turn your camera on when you are ready to start. That doesn't make any sense. We don't want that. We want to know what the problems are before we start so we have a chance to fix it. Now, these break down into two core items. One, we want to make sure that there's no sudden unexpected thing like that beautiful outfit you wore is no longer going to work. Maybe we're going green screen, and now magically it turns out you're wearing something with too much green in it. I mean, this doesn't really work for anybody now. And we don't want to be surprised with that. But the other thing we want to know about is we want to know about your internet speed, because I can bring in a fantastic high resolution picture of you from your camera and with your audio. I can do incredible things unless your internet is causing a problem or my internet is causing a problem. We try on our end to make sure that our internet is always rock solid. Now, we have had problems in a number of ways. One of the big ones can be that you may have super high speed internet, but you may have someone else in that facility in your home that's on the internet, streaming movies, God forbid, running their own live streams. We don't know. We want to know whether or not there's going to be a problem, especially if you're planning on going live. And so you do want to make sure, if you are on a live feed, try to make sure that the rest of your facility or your home or your business is not tying up that bandwidth. Secondly, we want to know whether or not we have problems with your microphone or your camera. Thirdly, we want to make sure that the link that we build works. Now, we have had problems sometimes with people's firewalls or with their security settings on their computers. We want to know these things. If we know them and we have time, we can fix them. Okay? Just some thoughts to keep in mind. And lastly, we want you to be alive. This is fun. It doesn't have to be complicated. Complicated happens when we overthink the part, when we try to get every word so perfectly that we end up needing multiple takes, or we get frustrated and we finish the live stream or the video recording feeling less than satisfactory. We also need to forgive ourselves. Nobody says everything perfect. Sometimes we say things that are imperfect. That's okay. The bottom line is, not only does your audience not necessarily care, but they're forgiving. Now, we want to stay away from things that are controversial in most cases. Some people are controversial and that's their shtick. But in general, stay away from the things that are controversial, but have fun. Your audience needs to know that you're alive so that they feel good about watching you and they stay tuned. Okay? So those are a few thoughts to keep in mind. Now, we love what we do. We're dying to record you live when you need to be live. We know that you're going to hop on Zoom And the people out there, they want to see a nice clear picture and they want to hear you. Just keep these things in mind, and I think you'll have a lot of fun, and you'll look far more professional, and you'll be easier, obviously, for us to make look really, really good. Anyway, Mark Nicholas from Manhattan Beach Studios, and it's been a pleasure.